Hello and welcome to Off the Fence, a podcast where we deconstruct difficult decision making to find out what keeps us stuck and, more importantly, how do we get unstuck? I'm your host, Karen Covey. I'm a divorce coach and recovering lawyer, as well as a mediator, arbitrator, and collaborative divorce professional. And with me today is Paulette Rigo. And I'm going to read your bio, Paulette, because it is so extensive. I can't even begin to do you justice. So let me just say, for those of you who don't know Paulette, Paulette is an experienced ADR mediator, a certified divorce coach, certified divorce specialist, certified amicable divorce professional who has served as a neutral in all types of conflict surrounding family, court, and divorce. She trained for 2 years with experienced trial attorney and nationally prominent mediator, arbitrator, and ADR trainer, Patricia Ciuda. And Paulette has also survived her own high conflict divorce that lasted 8.5 years and was litigated all the way through appeal. And Paulette, if you don't mind, I'd like to start with your backstory so you can explain to people what you lived through and how that has informed the work you do today.
I would be happy to, because it is a story that threw me, the impetus in which I found this work. I didn't find it, Karen. It found me. And thank you for having me be a guest. It's been an honor. I'm so excited that we got to meet a few years ago back in pre-COVID and being able to continue relationships with outstanding divorce professionals such as yourself. So it's an honor and a privilege to be here. So my story, oh my, well, I, very innocently, naively, I think is more the word, fell in love really young, 17, which I don't know, I had turned 17 just 6 weeks prior when I met him. So, we were young and I was a senior in high school and we dated for 7 years. It seemed great. My family loved him. His family loved me. We were young. I didn't know my head from my, elbow. I just kind of, it was on my checklist of things to do, right? I see a lot of women do that and not to point out ladies here, but, it was like, be a good kid, graduate from high school, go to college, get married, have babies, something like that. Right. And before I knew it, I realized like, wow, where am I? Who am I? Whoa, what happened? Being in my early 30s, living in a rather large house with 3 little children, to a family and a husband that I really thought I knew, but I didn't really think, after I realized that I didn't know as well as I thought I did. And I also came from a family where I was taught not to ask questions and the show must go on because I was a dancer. So there's something in dancers where it's like, the show must go on, never let them see you sweat, that kind of like,
yeah.
One of my mother's favorite sayings was, be a trooper. Mm-hmm. So that's not the greatest thing when you're in any situation that just feels like it's not you. So it wasn't that, I was miserable per se. It was just a long-term marriage that kind of ran its course and we were kind of growing apart. And I hear that a lot. I was now in my late 30s, early 40s, and realized, wow, I'm such a different person now than I was when I was 17. I don't even remember being 17. Does anyone? But, it was a matter of realizing that I didn't marry a man, I married a family. And I think that happens to a lot of people. And 20 years into the marriage, I also realized when I made that very difficult decision, we went through therapy and counseling, and we really did try so many other things. And that would be a whole nother other conversation, although I'm happy to touch on it. But it just never felt like we were getting anywhere. It always felt like whatever he wanted wasn't what I wanted. Whatever I wanted wasn't what he wanted. And we just felt like we were kind of going in opposite, zigzags. And there were many years that I, kept putting on that, happy face, because that's what we do when we're dancers and performers. And you just kind of, I hate to say act, but that's what you learn. So my mother was a ballet teacher, and it was just sort of, I got to be a trooper. So, but I realized when I did finally bite the bullet, as they say, and file, that I wasn't divorcing a man, I was divorcing a whole family. And the family was powerful and impactful for him and influential. They were not happy that I had the courage naivete to file. And it was all gloves off. It was just a matter of mediation was not an option, went into litigation. And before you knew it, there was every conceivable lack of compliance, lack of agreeing to any sort of processes of the traditional litigation journey, which, by the way, Karen, I didn't know what the heck that was. I mean, who does, right?
Yeah.
I
that's
didn't go to
true.
law school. I went to school for journalism. So I had taught ballet. I was a choreographer. I had modeled. I had become a macrobiotic teacher, coach, Ayurvedic consultant, birth doula, lactation consultant, yoga teacher, trainer, like had a lot of other interesting careers, but being an attorney and being in court was not one of them. But I certainly learned a lot, because when you're going through litigation and there is you're the plaintiff, they're the defendant, suddenly you're thrown into this compliance and you've got discovery and interrogatories. We even had a discovery master, a special master assigned to our case, which is also rare, right? A special master. I was like, what the heck is a special master? Why do I need a special master? I always say it was kind of like a babysitter. He was the judge and realized that the case wasn't going along swimmingly and assigned a special master to our case, which I realized, oh, you mean not everybody gets a special master? I thought, why doesn't everybody get one of these? So I was very naive. And then pretty soon there was, the reply and nothing was ever, shall we say, normal. Like, it was just nothing. It was everything had to be in contempt, enforcement, and the judge immediately just assigned it to a trial.
Wow. So it sounds like you were embroiled in what we call a high conflict divorce situation. You got to know the court system up close and personal, probably really fast. And it also sounds like going in, because you became a divorce coach after that, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I had zero interest in becoming a professional divorce coach. This happened because my case took 8.5 years. There was a 12-day trial. The 12-day trial, of course, there was about 2.5 years of preparation, 2 years before the trial started, and then the 12-day trial that took place over 9 months. And then the judge's decision, the judge took 9 months before the decision was presented. And
okay, I hate to interrupt you, but what you have said is I think so critical for people to hear. They don't get it. It was 2 years to prepare and 8.5 days over 9 months. Most people, when you think of a trial, you think of what you see on TV and that it starts in the beginning of the episode and by the end of the episode, you're done, right? So yeah, you're laughing. Let's talk about what it was really like to litigate that, to go through that trial.
Yes, it was actually a 12-day trial that took place over 9 months. So you would think, right, everyone listen up, that if it's a 12-day trial, and by the way, you don't know that it's going to be a 12-day trial, I think it was originally assigned to be 4 days. And then it went to 6 and then 8 and then 10 and then 12. And before you know it, it started in September, it ended in June, hence the 9 months. But you would think if you had a 12-day trial, you would be Monday to Friday, and Monday, Tuesday. Newsflash, that is never the case. Well, maybe not never, but rarely. And then after all that, the judge took steamer trunks of cardboard boxes on both sides to their chambers to examine and analyze with their team of experts, and took another 9 months to make their final decision. So it was about 4 years between the filing, the normal, petition, complaint, reply, temporary orders. I think we had several temporary orders. And then boom, right into court with no, 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 I'm not giving you that. And yes, 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 yes. And all the legal terms when the attorneys ask the other attorney, hey, I haven't got that from you. Is that on the way over? And all the kicking the can down the road. She's smiling and laughing if you're listening to the audio of this. So that all happened. And then that took a whole nother year. And then we started the pretrial conferences. There were several, which those are fun. Forgive my sarcasm, everyone. But then you immediately jump into dates. And of course, the judge wants to meet with both attorneys to say, are you ready for trial? Are you ready for trial? And of course, one of them usually said, not yet. And I'm still waiting on this or that. And before you knew it, it was 2 years. And then the trial took another, almost year. And then there was another about year of the decision. So here we are at 4 years. And then bam, there was always that threat of, I'm going to appeal it. I'm going to appeal it. I'm going to appeal it, even during the trial. And there was an additional 4 years after the final decree and decision from the judge, because they appealed it. Opposing counsels appealed it, which went to the state Supreme Court, not the Supreme Court, but the state Supreme Court. And that took four years for that final decision to come down. So it was an 8.5-year case from filing to the appeal end. And 97% of divorce cases don't go to trial, and 3% do, and only 1% of that 3% goes to the appeals court. So my attorney said, you're the unicorn, you're the 0.001%, my dear. You owe it to give back to people. And he introduced me to phenomenal mediators, divorce experts, coaches. And he said, Paulette, you think like a judge, you act like a lawyer, and you feel like a therapist. That was a quote. I did not point myself that. And I cried, and I think I kind of slapped him on the shoulder. He's very tall. So, and I was like, yeah, you think I should really do this? And he goes, well, obviously people keep reaching out to you for help. There's a reason. But, I said, should I go to law school? He laughed. He goes, absolutely. And I did not go to law school, maybe in my next life, but it has really been an honor to walk through the fire, hold hands, lock arms, and get divorced with people in additional, maybe not as contentious or sometimes parallel high conflict long-term marriage cases, because that really is my expertise. That's not to say that I have not mediated cases that from start to finish were 43 days. I really love to avoid litigation if I can at all costs. Please do not think I'm pro-divorce or pro-litigation. But if you've got to do it, you got to do it right. And there's no dress rehearsal, Karen. You got to do this. It's a one and done,
Yeah, it's like I like to tell my clients, you don't get a do-over. So you have to do this right the first time around. And it sounds like you really walked through fire in your divorce.
I did, but it gave me the depth and the breadth and the courage and the resiliency and the knowledge and the wisdom and the depth and the breadth that I would never have had. I could not do this work. I would not do this work had I not had that experience. It's given me so much of a unique perspective to help people avoid all of the mistakes, trusting their spouse to doing the right thing, assuming that everything is just going to work out, and, social media and marketing and not having your evidence and your documentation and all those. I don't mean to go down a long list, but there's so many things that people do wrong that make their case long. And I do mean long, maybe 2 years, maybe 3, maybe a year. I didn't mean it had to go to 8.5, although I have had one client that went 10. I got into it in the midst of it. So she found me and said, help. And the money that people spend, can we talk about the money that people waste on everything and anything when it's really not necessary? And the damage to the family, the damage to the relationship as a whole, it is astounding the amount of money, the time, the poor decisions, and the heartache that people go through just because they don't know what to do.
You are preaching to the choir, but I really, really hope that everyone hears what you said and listens to what you said, because this is a long and expensive journey. And if you don't understand, I hate to say that divorce is a game, because it's not a game, it's your life,
Mhm.
but a game is kind of the most useful analogy that I've found. And if you don't know the rules of the game, you are not going to play it very well, and you
No,
don't get a chance to go back and do it again, right?
it requires
So
strategy.
absolutely. And it starts with knowing the rules, understanding what's going to be required of you, figuring out what you're facing, and then, to your point, making a strategy. So kudos to you for, after you've been through all of that. I could see you just saying, nope, I'm done, not doing this
Yeah.
again.
It did take me a little while to really contemplate that. And about halfway through the case, my own experience, my personal experience, people started to reach out to me because I know a lot of people. I ran a performing arts studio. I knew a couple hundred young women, probably close to 800. I ran a modeling agency in the children's division. I was a yoga teacher, trainer, and a birth doula. So you get the idea. I know a lot of women, right? I hung out with chicks, and they heard about my case and they kept calling me, texting me. This is kind of before social media was a thing, although it was starting. I even got letters. My phone rang, my doorbell rang, and it kept repeating, saying, I read about your case, I heard about your case. But it would all and commiserate, and I that kind of empathy feeling. But there was always that question at the end of, can you help me? And you seem to be thriving, you seem to be doing okay, or you haven't crawled naked in a corner like in hoveled and withered
Right.
away like a dying bug or something. Like, I was doing okay. I had my moments, trust me, but for the most part, I found a part of myself I didn't know existed. And that's the beautiful part. And I think because of my holistic training and my experience and being an entrepreneur and having such strong role models in my life, I never thought failure was an option. I just said, I've got to learn to stand up for myself. I deserve more than being discarded and alienated and brushed aside and ignored and lied to and manipulated. It was a very big web. And I'm not finger pointing. Divorce takes two. So, the demise of a marriage takes two. So ownership is a huge part of it. But once you get into the legal part of it, whoa, that's a whole nother day at the races. So I do believe that I was able to come out of that, not destroyed, and if anything, stronger, calmer, wiser, just better than I had going into it. I am the same woman of naturally. We don't change. We're not, I'm still the same me, but there's a part of me that is so different. And I see that in my clients, that is the gift that I see, is the transformation in them from the babe in the deer in the headlights. I said, but you know what I mean? And that feeling of fear and overwhelm to like, I got this. I'm good. Like, this is not fun. Nobody in their right mind would say, oh, bring it on. Let's do this. But when they do come out of it, they're either gone through a breakup, a divorce, or a life pivot, and they're really desperately needing a safe space and a whole new life. And they get there. And also, I have a lot of clients that are men, so I shouldn't just be sexist. As a mediator, I naturally work with both parties. And if I'm just coaching, I sometimes work with men and I sometimes work with women. It really depends. I am really proud of the industry that you and I are a member of, where we're changing the experience. We're changing the language and the path that you can know that you have an option besides blindly writing a check, handing it over to somebody, and giving your life and delegating the authority to someone else, either an attorney or a judge, to make or create your whole new life for you without your involvement. That is scary, because it's a little bit like going to Vegas and playing, craps. You don't know what you're going to get. Now, there's still a little bit of, you don't know what you're going to get when it goes to court, but at least you're involved in it and you're engaged and you're knowledgeable and you're understanding that there are some options out there. So it is really a gift to see that.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's not just, you've been through so much with the litigation process, and that's very important for people to understand and to know that process before they get caught up into it. But there's more to you too than just the litigation side. You mentioned the yoga practice, the Ayurvedic things, the holistic side. How does that experience inform your divorce coaching?
That's a great question. Well, there's two sides to divorce. The spreadsheet side, judicial, legal, financial, residential, lending, insurance, taxes. You get the idea. It's numbers, it's facts, it's names, it's dates. There's no emotion. Now, not everyone likes to hear that, but that's just the way it is. On the other side, though, there's the psychological, mental, physical, sexual, spiritual, psychological part of and co-parenting, family dynamics and friends, all the emotional, mushy side of it. That's the opposite of a spreadsheet. I like to call it the glass bowl of emotions. It's just this big pool of emotions. And when you're dealing with litigation, it's just really the spreadsheet. Yes, you probably need a therapist to help with the other little aspects of it here and there. But because of my unique training experience, both on the litigated side, that is extremely navy blue suit, hair in a bun, pearls, attaché case, like documentation, evidence, witness, credibility, believability, likability, all of those essential things of what to wear, what not to wear, what to say, what not to say. There's a decorum to court, correct?
Oh, absolutely.
But when you find yourself crying on the bathroom floor, don't expect the judge or the attorney to come pick you up. You have to know that there's more to it. You've got to be able to pick yourself up and dust yourself off and create boundaries and identify with your core values and really understand who you are. What are your core values? Your why? What is your why? Why are you even going through this? And what is the outcome that you deserve and desire? And identifying with that so that you can process all the emotions, because if you don't, you're going to come out the other side and probably need my services again.
Yeah, it's like I like to tell people, you can get divorced from your spouse, but you're still going to take you with you into the next relationship. And so one way or another, you either do the work now or you repeat the situation in some form and you end up having to do the work later, right? So what you're saying is so critical and so important for people to hear. But how is it when somebody, you asked, people need to ask themselves, why are you in this situation? Why are you even here? What would you say to the person who says, well, it wasn't my decision. It was my husband or my wife, or they're the crazy one. Yes. I don't know why I'm here. I don't want to be here. What do you say to that?
Yeah, that is difficult, because depending on whether you're the person that was initiating the action, right? Or you suddenly were blindsided. That's the word I hear a lot. Maybe we could find a few other choice words, but blindsided works. And you didn't see it coming. Well, I'm going to debate that you probably missed a few red flags, but this is not finger pointing. And the empathy and I want to just hug and really allow that shock and denial to seep in, because it's that feeling of shock, denial, anger, sadness, negotiating, bargaining, all of that, anxiety, whether it be sadness or anger or sadness, all of those emotions that you go through the different stages of grief that take the time to absorb and finally come to a place of, well, I don't have the legal right to stop them. And that isn't good. I don't want to say a bad word, but it's not good, but it is what it is. Unfortunately, if one side wants a divorce, the other can't stop it. It isn't like a Jersey barrier that you can put up and say, oh, nice try. You got to stay married to me, even though you don't want to. Now, that means that you've got a jagged little pill to swallow. And there may have been, so I'm quoting Alanis Morissette. I apologize, Alanis, if you're listening, but it's a tough pill to swallow, right? And that takes a lot of strength and resiliency and courage to acknowledge that, wow, my spouse doesn't like this, doesn't want this, is unhappy, or whatever their laundry list is. And what does that mean for me? Because there's so much fear and the abandonment issues and the anger and the sadness that will linger in it. So the person that isn't the one that wanted the divorce, that is now having to deal with all the paperwork and the emotions, it's going to take time. You have to, and your spouse may not want you to take that time because they're already ready. And you're like, hello, I still need to figure this out. And your spouse may be light years ahead of you, which is unfortunate. So if you have the right a team of professionals that can help you learn to speak and communicate with that person, depending on their personality and if they're forthcoming and honest and empathetic at all, or if they're just like, it's not my problem, too bad. You're gonna need the right support, whether that be a mental health practitioner, a licensed clinical social worker, whomever. I'm none of those people, but I have a big Rolodex of people that I recommend to people when they really are stuck and they're feeling sad and angry, because you'd better catch up. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to do it as quickly as they want you to. You have the right to live your life and do it at your own pace within the parameters of the process and the law. You can't drag your feet for 10 years, but there are some ways that you can have a conversation with the other attorney saying, she's really, or he, whoever the other person is having a very challenging time with this, and get the right support. Don't go it alone. It's not going to be pretty, because chances are, if one spouse wants the divorce and they want A, B, and C, and the other doesn't want the divorce, they're not going to want A, B, and C. They may not want X, Y, and Z, but it might be LMNOP, which means the farther apart you are from your list of things you want, means you're kicking the can down the road towards mediation and to litigation, the way, whether it would go to a trial. So the closer you two are in your desired outcome, the less costly in time it will take. But that's the initial shock that is painful. And it usually can take 3 to 6 months, even longer for some, to just absorb that, honey, I'm not happy. We need to talk. It's really a hard conversation. Get the support you need, get that expert.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to pivot a little bit now, because I know you and I have talked, and there's something that you do that very few of the, divorce coaches do, that I think is so interesting and unique. And that is, you have divorce events, like you have retreats where you will invite someone to Belize, which you wouldn't have to invite me twice. I don't care about divorce. I would be there.
Come on down, right?
But you take people to really cool places, and you help them, you coach them, you help them grow through their process. Can you tell me a little bit about what that is and how it works?
Sure. Well, I have attended probably 30 retreats: Bali, Costa Rica, Vieques, Maui. I'm not name dropping, just because of the path in which I decided to take after I left the performing arts world. I'm a constant learner. I don't do anything halfway, and I do deep dive. So I have attended numerous retreats where I have personally witnessed enormous transformations in people's lives because of their ability to retreat. Think about the word. Right? You're retreating, you're withdrawing, you're removing yourself and putting yourself in a whole new, different, out of the box environment that's safe, sacred, comfortable. And you have other like-minded people there that are going to build community and help you not feel like you're a loser, you're broken, you're some sort of strange a science experiment, that there's nothing wrong with you and you're not broken. Because many people feel when they go through divorce, whether it's before, during, and after, that they're a failure, that they've done something wrong. There's so much guilt and blame and finger pointing, or feeling like I failed as a husband, I failed as a wife. Whether it be societal, family, that's another conversation, but they still feel that way. So because of my own personal experience, not as a divorce, this was prior to all this. And when I left Massachusetts, because I'm not a fan of cold weather, and I moved to Belize in 2016, and I ended up living there for 3 years. The first opportunity I had was a friend of mine who was, under the radar, saying, "Hey, I'm really thinking of getting divorced." And I said, "Come on down." So she was supposed to spend the weekend, and she stayed a month.
Wow.
Now she did not overstay her welcome, but she got off the plane with fear, no plan, confusion, pain, and a lot of other things that, she was internally dealing with. And she got on the plane to go back, and she's not from Massachusetts, with a plan. And she felt clear. And I got this brainchild of like, if I can do it for one, I can do it for many. So naturally, I don't have 30 women move into my house for a month, though that would be fun. Probably sounds like a reality show, Karen. Maybe we should do it. But you imagine having 30 women in a room that were contemplating divorce in the same house for a month. That would be, I would pay to have that. Maybe we should produce it. But
I think that is a reality show.
I think it really is. So I would have 3 or 4 come down for the weekend. And this now has transformed into me having 2 to 4 events per year, typically in Belize, where I take them to either the jungle. One of my favorites is Copal Tree, Copal Tree. It's in Dangriga. It's in the southern part of Belize. And it's just a beautiful property. And then we fly them to the private island called Thatch Key, and they spend 3 days there. And the great thing about it is it's a private island. So you can walk around barefoot, no hair, no makeup. You don't give a darn what you look like, and neither did anyone else. You're really there for help, coaching, community support, wellness, and you come feeling, well, many different ways, but mostly tired, exhausted, a little confused, burnt out, and in need of a map, a blueprint. And that's the book I wrote, Better Divorce Blueprint. So I took chapters 7 and 8 in my book, Better Divorce Blueprint, and I transformed that into a retreat. And I teamed up with a holistic genius. Her name is Tara Womack. And we do these retreats annually, semi-annually, or more, depending on if they fill up. And they're small and intimate. And it has changed the lives of hundreds of women. I love doing them, mostly because I love the country. I love the food. I love the culture, but I love the experience and the transformation they get. So they get back on that plane knowing the life that they want to create, and they feel confident enough to make it happen. And yes, I can provide ongoing support over the next few years if they, gee, my plan's changing a little, what should I do? But for the most part, they've created it and they know what they want to implement. And I'm really excited and enthusiastic and empowered and inspired to be able to bring this to these type of people, because it doesn't exist, where I have this background in high conflict divorce. And I'm also a mediator, by the way. So I love mediating, amicable, uncontested cases too. Those are, a day at the beach. I love them. But those people sometimes need a little bit of, love and the friendships, Karen, it's a beautiful thing to see a friendship grow and blossom out of trauma or hardship. And that's what divorce can be. She has clearly said that it's, like a game. But unfortunately, the next chapter is your responsibility. Freedom sounds scary to some because it's a big responsibility, and you now have the responsibility of embracing it, taking it by the steering wheel and moving forward, because you have no one to blame if you get stuck. You don't want to still feel like you're living the story over and over. You've got to move forward. So these retreats are the best way to do it. It's 6 nights, 7 days. We've tried to make it affordable. It's all inclusive, private. You don't worry about a thing from registration to namaste. I take care of everything.
That sounds fabulous. I mean, and is this solely for people dealing with divorce? Or I have to tell you, it sounds so good. I'm tempted to jump in.
The answer is no. In fact, Tiara, who's had 2 high conflict cases, relationships, has not been married. So it's normally for people who are either been through a breakup, a divorce, or a life pivot of any kind. And it could be a widow. It's really just somebody that feels burnt out. And I also have to say that COVID did a lot of damage for people feeling limited and getting back out again. So sometimes going through a divorce in a time when you already feel isolated, if that makes sense, is a double whammy. So naturally, because you're isolated, and maybe you even lose some friends. So there is a community that has grown out of this. I would say 70% of the participants have been or are getting divorced. But the other 30, no, it isn't, you're not going to get kicked off the island if you do not have a divorce decree in your hand. So no,
nobody's voting you off the island.
No, there's no survivor. We don't do that. So yeah.
But it sounds just lovely. So you do Belize. Is Belize the only place you go, or other places?
No, it's just the place that why do I pick it? It's English speaking. It's a 2-hour flight from every city in the United States. And you can normally fly from Denver, LA, Toronto, Seattle, Houston, Dallas, Charlotte, Miami, New York, in direct right to Belize City.
Okay.
And then you take the little local plane to the properties. So it's English speaking. It's easy to get to. The weather is phenomenal. The people are gracious, beautiful. The food is fabulous. I just feel safe there. I know a lot of people. So no, I love Bali. I love Maui. I love Costa Rica, Vieques, Puerto Rico. I've done a few there. And my house in Atlanta too, because we have a property on a lake. So I do some one-on-ones here, but it's kind of my trust me, if you've not been to Belize, you must come. It's May 4th to the 10th, 2024. And it's pretty easy to find. You just go to betterdivorceacademy.com and go to events, and voila. There you go.
Paulette, this has been so exciting. And I have to tell you, I'm excited about going to these, going to your events. I'm not divorced. I'm not getting a divorce at the moment. And nor do I hope to get one. I have the best husband on the planet.
Me too. It's okay. Yeah.
But this sounds absolutely wonderful, because what's important and what is so key that you're providing people, you don't want to spend the rest of your life being defined by your divorce. This sounds like it's an opportunity to create a new life, to create, as you put it, your next chapter. And that's really what life is about, is moving on, moving forward, being strong, and enjoying your life again. I mean, divorce might have been, whether it was something that you chose or it's something someone else chose for you, the point of the matter is you've got to keep living. And if you're going to do that, it's about living life to the fullest on your own terms. So it's all such good stuff. Paulette, where can people find you? Where can they, if they're looking for you, we'll link to all of your things in the show notes, but where can they find you?
The easiest place, betterdivorceacademy.com. Everything is there. My podcast, my retreats, my book, my workbook, mediation services, private coaching services, litigation trial coaching. That is my, not many divorce coaches want to go into that world. You name it. It's everything is there. There's a plethora too of videos. I think over 75 videos. I have one of the top divorce blogs in the country. There's probably over 100 entries. There is so much free resources there. So many people go back time and time again to read an article, listen to a podcast, download a checklist. And my books, on Amazon, it's $15. You can't go wrong. So Better Divorce Blueprint is the book.
That sounds wonderful. Paulette, thank you so much for being a guest. And for everyone who is out there listening, if you enjoyed this episode, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we'll see you again next time.